Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andy Walker. I'm the Partner Alliance Manager for Bytes Software Services. Just some quick housekeeping to run through with you. During the webinar, you are muted, but you can submit questions at any time via the questions box on the right-hand side of the screen. There will be a Q&A session at the end to answer any of the submitted questions. The webinar recording will be made available for you after the webinar. And if you can please complete the critique form at the end where you can request a callback from one of our specialists at Bytes. So thank you for attending our webinar today. This will focus on the Microsoft Cloud product suite and is designed to show you how moving to cloud-based architecture with Microsoft, how your business can benefit from it. Bytes are the UK's leading licensed solution provider in the UK, and as such are currently the #1 partner in the UK as measured by Microsoft for the number of Office 365 seats deployed, and also the #1 partner in the UK for delivered Azure platforms, currently assisting 40% of all the Azure consumption in the UK. To assist Bytes in delivering this success, we work with a number of specially selected partners to form our partner ecosystem, who provide specific, highly skilled expertise in focused areas around the Microsoft Cloud stack. Today's presenters, Perspicuity, are our lead partner when focusing on the Microsoft Cloud into the sub-500 seat space and deliver a portfolio of skills and services to assist organisations and make the transformation from traditional on-premise delivery to agile and productive cloud platforms. Perspicuity will deliver the main body of the webinar, and I'd like to introduce Dan Charlton-Brown, who is Senior Account Manager, Ben Leach, who is the Principal Consultant for SharePoint. Dan and Ben will take you through the webinar and will provide you with a full Q&A during the presentation. And finally, at the end, Dan and Ben will be joined by Rupert Squires, who is the Sales Director for Perspicuity, and also Chris Howitt, who is the Principal Consultant for both Office 365 and Azure. I'll now hand you over to Dan, who will introduce Perspicuity.
Thanks very much, Andy, and hello everybody, good afternoon and welcome to this afternoon's webinar focused on how to do more with the Microsoft Cloud. Just some quick introductions. Andy's very kindly gone through this. As Andy said, I'm the Senior Account Manager here and will be facilitating the webinar. I'm joined today by my colleagues Ben Leach, who heads up our SharePoint practice, and Chris Howitt, who's our Principal Lead for Office 365, Azure and EMS, and we'll have time, as Andy said, for a Q&A at the end, so you guys can pose any questions to us that you're interested in. Just a quick run through on what we'll be covering today. I'll give you a brief overview in a minute about Perspicuity and who we are. As Andy said, we've been working with Bytes for a while and well respected by those guys, so have a lot of good things going on. We will talk to you obviously around Office 365. Really from an end user perspective, we want to give you some practical ideas about how you can use it to increase productivity, etc. within the workplace. So Ben will be opening up one of our demo sites and running through some of the functionality there. When it comes to Azure Premium and EMS, the Enterprise Mobility Suite, those things are slightly more difficult to demonstrate. So we have a couple of slides, nothing that will kill you, so don't worry. But we'll be talking through around what those workloads are and how they can benefit you in the workplace. So really, whether you're already on Office 365 and want to do more, maybe you've migrated your email but you haven't done things around SharePoint, Skype for Business, Azure, EMS, but you want to find out how those can work for you, we can help. Or if you're at the start of your journey completely and you want a bit more of an overview, then hopefully you'll find some benefit from today's webinar and find it informative. We'll then talk a bit about how we can help in terms of our propositions, our offerings, what we've done with some other customers briefly, and there'll then be time for a Q&A. So, who are Perspicuity? A lot of you are probably wondering straight away. So we've been around doing Office 365 since its inception, and for those of you who are old enough to remember BPOS, the Business Productivity Online Suite before that, so we've got tons and tons of experience. We've migrated almost 2,000 customers to the cloud now. Really know what we're talking about. When it comes to SharePoint, again, we've been Gold Partner since about 2007, so provide a range of services around SharePoint, just about anything that you're looking to do. We are 100% Microsoft Cloud focused. We provide services for SharePoint on-premise as well, but otherwise, as I say, focused on things like Office 365, Azure, and the Enterprise Mobility Suite. We're a Microsoft Tier 1 partner. That just really means that we're a managed partner. We have a dedicated account manager within Microsoft. We benefit from all types of funding that's available. So if you are looking to embark on a cloud project and want some support from a Microsoft perspective, then we can certainly help you provide that, or provide that for you. Very experienced, as I say. We work with organisations all the way up from SMEs all the way up to large enterprises. You can see some of the examples of the customers we work with below. We provide complex projects, so bespoke projects around Microsoft Cloud and SharePoint. As it says, a multi-site country, and when it comes to SharePoint, intranets and extranets and websites. Just a bit about who we are. We are very, very focused on customer service. I know that's something that gets bandied about quite a lot, but that's supported by our 50 plus reviews on Microsoft's Pinpoint, which is essentially like TripAdvisor for Microsoft partners. So if you want to find out a bit more about us, please feel free to talk to Microsoft, your Microsoft account manager, or anybody in the channel, and hopefully our reputation will precede us. So that's a bit about us. I'm going to pass you over now to Ben, who's going to just talk through some of the more practical benefits of 365 and get into a demonstration. Over to you, Ben.
Thanks, Dan. Right, so I'm going to start on a demo of a fairly common scenario that you've probably encountered yourselves. So our demo site is based on Valley View Consulting. As we said, we don't use the rehashed Contoso. We prefer to come up with our own demo material. So what I'll do, I'm just going to run through the scenario briefly. So we've got a couple of personas here, a few personas that are worth just mentioning. What I'll start with, so the scenario is effectively a sales proposal being generated and needing input from other colleagues in a fairly quick turnaround time, and then sending that document over to the customer. What I'm going to demonstrate is how you can use SharePoint to work on a document at the same time, and then send the proposal to the customer and actually apply some protection to it so that the customer can only access it for the time period that you've allowed, and they won't be able to forward it on, etc. So I'm going to demonstrate a range of technologies around that. So as I said, the scenarios here, the personas are Ben Smith, who's the salesperson, so I'll be running him, running his account, and then I'll be sharing with my colleague Alice Jones, who works within the legal team, and then we'll send it off to the customer. So I'm going to come out of the deck and bring up the demo site. So if you just bear with me a second. Just 1 second. So what I'm just showing you here is just an example of a corporate intranet. So this is based on one of our SharePoint intranet offerings that we provide. So just a quick summary of this. So what we're looking at, corporate intranet, fairly standard functionality. So corporate news. We've got a feed from Delve. So if you haven't encountered Office 365 too heavily, Delve is a new tool that allows you to show all the documents that you're working on, and it almost provides a machine intelligence to basically interpret who it is that you work with on the most regular basis. And I can see the documents that I viewed, I can see who my team are based on who I interact with the most, and I can see trending documents, etc. So that's the Delve view. And then what we have is things like share price, fairly common stuff for an intranet, latest articles, latest forms and policies. We've actually got this configured so that based on how people interact with the site, so as more people interact with a particular policy, then that will naturally surface itself to the home page based on user interaction. And then things like Twitter feed, embedded Twitter feed and business information and useful links at the bottom, etc. So I won't go into that too much, but just to summarize, our corporate intranet, home page, and then links through to various different departments. So I'm just going to jump over to the sales department site. So again, what we're looking at here is a is the sales department landing page. I've got various different things like supporting information around sales methodology, quick reference guides, etc. Useful announcements that are relevant to the sales team. We've also got news that will have been published from, say, a marketing or internal comms function. So any news items that are relevant to that particular department could be pushed into their feed. And then we have a key contacts component. So I can see myself, and I can see my colleague Rupert, and that will then link me through to their profile. And then we've got a nice looking tiles view of various different useful links, etc. So what I'm just going to do is click through into the proposals area. So just give that a second. So I can see a couple of proposals in this library already, and what I'm going to do now is start to create a new proposal. So if I click on New, what I'll see is a pre-configured document type called proposal. So what I'll do, I'll click on that. That's going to open up my Word client, and we'll see in a second as that comes through a pre-populated document template. So we can see I've got my proposal document type. It's been automatically linked with a document template for generating proposals. I could have multiple options in that list. If I just jump back to this view, if I configured it, I could have multiple different types of proposals based on different templates if that was appropriate. I've just got the one for the demo. So if I just go into here, what I'm going to do now, I'll just the first thing I'll do actually is just save that. So let's just make sure I save that back into SharePoint. It is worth highlighting. So I'm opening the Word client, but you could as easily elected to use Word Online. So say for instance you're predominantly accessing from tablets, etc., and you don't often want to use the Word client, then you can open it in Word Online. You get a lightweight cut down version of Word. I'm going to use the full Word client just because of the full features around sharing, etc., that provides. But it's just worth knowing that's an option. So I'm just going to save this document quickly. So let's just do that. What is this? Let's call this email migration proposal. So just give that a second to go and save. So what you possibly can see in the bottom right here, it said uploading to SharePoint. So what that means now is I'm in my Word document. I can start editing it. So let's just go and say, make a couple of changes. So I'll call this Vineyards. Project is email migration. And if I press save, what this is actually doing is saving automatically to SharePoint. Every time I save that document, I'll be generating a new version, so I don't need to worry about people overwriting each other, etc. So I'm saving that document to SharePoint. If for whatever reason I lost internet access or the internet access went down temporarily, then Word would save a local copy of that document. The next time I got internet access, it would resynchronize back with SharePoint. So you're not going to lose any work, but it means that you don't have to save locally and continue to upload to SharePoint. You're working within SharePoint. So I've started working on my document, and now what I actually need to do is get some input from one of my colleagues. So in this scenario, I'm relatively new to the business, and I want to get some input from the legal team. So what I'm going to do is just jump back to the home page, and I'm going to do a search for legal. So I want some support from the legal team. I'll do a search for legal in my people finder. Let's just do that. Just give that a second to come back. And we can see all of the people that have been tagged as being in the legal department, and in fact have got legal in their name, in their job title, sorry. Now, I need some immediate support on this, and I can see from this people directory that one of my colleagues is actually online at the moment. So Alice Jones is actually online now. I can see from the presence, or Skype for Business presence against that account. So I can actually start a conversation with her from my Skype for Business client. So let me just do that. Hi Alice, I need some support on a proposal that I'm writing. Would you be able to help? So let's hope that Alice is online and she's going to help me. Just give that a minute. Ah, good, she's typing, that's good. Let's see what she has to say. Ah, good, thanks Alice, that's very good. Thanks. I'll share the document with you now. Okay, all right, so that's good. So I found someone from my people directory, someone who's online in the people in the legal team. They've kindly said that they're giving me a hand. So what I'm going to do is just go back into my document, and I'm actually going to initiate a share directly from Word. So this is relatively new, this functionality. So sharing has been around in SharePoint for ages, but it's recently been integrated straight into the Office client. So within Office 2016, you can now directly share directly from the client, and that will generate an email with a link to that document. So let's just have a look at that. So I'm going to click on Alice Jones. Sorry, one second. Let's say Alice Jones. Let's just do that. So I'm going to give her edit permissions, and I'm just going to send that link. So, hi Alice, here is the document. Oops. Can you focus on section 1? So let's just share that. Better save as well, just quickly, just in case. So let's just have a quick look at my my Outlook. Sorry, I should have opened that already. So let's just go and open Outlook. So what we're going to see in a second is very quickly is a copy of the email that will have been sent to Alice, and then hopefully what's going to happen imminently is that, so yeah, let's have a look at that. What is going to happen imminently is Alice is going to log in and we're going to be able to collaborate on that document together. So you can see here that I've just had a copy of the email that has been sent. So the message that I've just put in, and instead of actually embedding the document and just emailing documents back and forth to each other, it's just sent a link to the same document in SharePoint. So Alice is going to log in and go and access that, and then hopefully what we should see in a second is Alice logging in, and then we can collaborate on the document together. So let's just give that a minute. Just waiting for my colleague Alice to log in. Okay. Okay, well what we might just do, we'll just move on for a second, we'll come back to that I think, but so my colleague's just gone in and logged in, so what I'm just going to do in the meantime is just let him sort that out temporarily, and then just show you a couple of other things while I'm there. So just very quickly, let's just refresh my screen. And we'll see that document that's been saved. So I can see it's just being edited at the moment. And just very quickly, just to highlight something, I'm just going to have a look at the version history. So you can see if you want to get back to a previous copy of a document, then you've got access to the various different versions if they've been saved. So every time the document is being saved, I'm sending an update. That's actually saving a version. If I want to click back and view the previous one, I can do that quite easily. That's not a problem. Okay, so I might, there we go, good. So it took a little bit of time for that to come through, but you can see now, so Alice Jones is editing this document as well. So do I want to automatically share changes as they happen? Yes, I want to do that, that's great. So we can actually see Alice Jones is editing in real time. So what we should hopefully see in a second is Alice starts typing, and the point about this, and the thing to demonstrate, is that historically you would go and send a document to your colleagues, they would edit their part of the proposal, they would send it back to you, and you'd have a poor person that has to go and collate all of those changes and make sure that all the right changes are there. In this new world, if you will, with Office 365, we can work on that document together. Alice can work on the legal section. I can work on the investments and the scope section, and then actually all of the changes are being synchronized. I can see Chris has just, sorry, Alice has just made a couple of changes there, changed the font, etc. But I mean, as you've possibly seen, as I've been talking, various different changes are being made in line in that document. So this becomes quite a powerful way, particularly when you've got a fairly tight deadline of a proposal that you all need to pile into, and there's a few different people working on it at the same time. You can all just work on that document, work on your different sections, and all of the changes are being synchronized. And as I say, as we saw from this demo, I can actually even see in real time as someone is typing and making changes without having to go and save, etc. So let's just say we're done with the document for the moment. So I'll just make my changes. Let's just go and let's just go and save that quickly. Just 1 second, do a quick save. Yeah, okay, good. So we can see the changes that Alice has made. She's updated the reference. That's perfect. Thanks for that. So let's say I'm done with that document. What I can now do is I want to email that document to my customer. So what I'm going to do is just open my Outlook as I normally would, click on New Email. I think because let's just email. I'm going to email a couple of colleagues. So I'm going to email Chris, my colleague. I'll email Chris for the moment, I think. But the scenario here that I'm just demonstrating is how I could just send that to a customer. But so just email a couple of people. So what I'm just going to do is just say, here is the proposal. Hi Chris, here is the proposal. I hope it covers what you need. And now what I'm actually going to do is just attach the document directly from the Outlook client. So let's just have a look at this. In this new Outlook 2016, I've got an attach file option, and I can go and just pick, and it automatically is picking up the last documents I had access to. So let's just go and pick this one. Now, the default behavior actually is that it's going to send a link. So what SharePoint is very much trying to encourage you to do is to just send links to people instead of emailing documents around. Now, actually, in this scenario, I'm sending to a customer. So I do still want to embed the document itself. So I'm going to go attach as a copy, and all that's basically going to do is just embed that document as an attachment, as you would expect. But the one final thing that I want to do here is just apply some protection to it, because this is a proposal that is going to have a lifespan of or a time frame of 30 days, and I want to make sure that it's not being passed on to other people, etc. I'm going to elect to share protected, so actually apply some encryption to it and restrict what that recipient can do with it. So let's just do that very quickly. So I click share protected. I'm going to say I want this person to only be able to view that document. So we have a look at this. I go, users can view the attachments but cannot print, edit or copy the content. So I just want them to be able to open the document but not go and pass it on to other people. And in fact, I'm going to set an expiry date. So let's just do 26th of July and set an expiry date. I want to be notified and I want to be able to revoke access. So I'm just going to do that very quickly. Press send now. And what we'll see in a second is that recipient will be given an encrypted Word document as well as, in fact, an encrypted copy of a PDF. So just in case they don't have Word, then they can open it in a PDF. So that will just do that. And then I will be just wrapping up in a second. So let's just have a look in my outbox very quickly. Oh, that's gone already. That's good. Let's just open this. So let's see what has been sent. So I can see that there was the original Word document that has now been encrypted, as well as the encrypted PDF. Let's just open that Word document and see what that looks like. So it's just opening in protected view. So what we can just see is that there's this new yellow bar that's highlighting that this document has some protection applied to it. If I just view the permissions myself, I've got full control because I created the document, so I own it. But if Chris was accessing this document, or if the customer, then they would see the appropriate rights that they've been given. So, they would only be able to view it, they wouldn't be able to copy or print it, etc. But just to summarize that, and again, if you've got a PDF reader that's encryption compatible, such as Foxit Reader, then you'll be able to do the same thing with the PDFs. So that's the end of the demo. I'm going to jump back to the slides quickly and then wrap up. So let me just do that. I'm just going to go back to there. Let's go back to the presentation. Oh, whoops, excuse me. Okay, good stuff. So I'll just move on, sorry, to the appropriate part of the presentation. Yes, I mean, just one thing to summarize here. We can see some examples. We can't demonstrate it, but Microsoft are really pushing mobile first. You know, mobile first is their strategy moving forward. So things like OneDrive for Business, the apps that you get on iOS, Android, and Windows Phone, they will now allow you to connect to SharePoint sites. There's a range of apps, so things like the Word clients, the Office clients on the mobile, the Delve client, Office groups, the OneDrive, and a new just released SharePoint client as well. So all of these tools allow you to go and access those documents and save them for offline use. So that's just a quick summary of that. But yeah, that is the strategy, really pushing the mobile first approach, and there's some really powerful apps available. Let's just move on very quickly and summarize. So just to summarize the three different personas here. So Alice Jones, she was accessing via a mobile device and a tablet and a laptop. She was using a number of different things, so I haven't highlighted too much around remote apps, but you know, the ability to publish specific apps, almost like Citrix, but it's a Microsoft equivalent, a more advanced equivalent, and so be able to publish apps to people that perhaps don't have particularly powerful laptops. All of this functionality is available as part of the E5 license within Office 365 and covered by the Enterprise Mobility Suite. And the thing to just highlight from this is that instead of thinking about individual machines, we're thinking around a people-centric IT. So Alice Jones have got the rights to install Office on a number of different devices and even potentially from home as well. So Ben, he's accessed on a slightly different set of devices, and then the client, they will just receive on their normal laptop. So I'm going to hand over to Chris now. So just hand over to my colleague Chris. Just 1 second. I'll just bring up the slides for him. Chris is come off mute. I'm just going to go on mute.
Yeah. Hi there. So what we're going to be talking about now is actually just give a quick overview of the technologies that Ben's actually just been talking about there. So, just waiting for the next slide. So what we're looking at, so we're talking about the E5 license to start off with, and that had SharePoint, which gives the rights to actually create the SharePoint sites and actually view and edit them as well. It had Exchange for email, and obviously the advanced collaboration features within Exchange Online as well. We have Skype for Business, and one of the advantages of the E5 over some of the other suites as well is we can use PSTN calling now in Office 365. What that basically means is we can actually call landline numbers and have landline numbers call us as well. That's broken into two parts. That's conferencing and actual personal numbers as well. So the conferencing is similar to what we're using as a WebEx at the moment here, or this GoToWebinar, in that people can dial into one location or dial one number or even join via a separate client. And then you've got the separate PSTN calling when someone has their own number, and just from the Skype client they can just dial out and call whoever they need to, be it another Skype user or a mobile user or a landline user. And of course there's the social collaboration side of it, Yammer as well. Moving on from that, as another part of the suite, you also have, so underlining the whole lot of that is Azure Active Directory. So Azure Active Directory is your personal Active Directory in the cloud and is the identity provider for all of the Microsoft Cloud services. So we can use that. So it's fundamentally everything relies on Azure Active Directory, even if we use single sign-on or anything like that as well. The other side of that, which is also we're talking about Office as well, which is also included in the E5 suite. It's also included in various other Office 365 suites as well. That is part of that. We've done it separately because that's more something that goes onto the user's desktop. There's also AAD Connect, and this is the service that basically links your Active Directory into Azure Active Directory, and we synchronize it. So it's an entirely separate service, but we link the two together. Underneath that, as I've demonstrated, we have the remote app, Remote app, as my colleague Ben has pointed out, that's kind of like Citrix, as in you can create a virtual machine in the cloud, and that has your applications, and you can then publish those applications out to the end users, and you can choose who accesses what data. And you can, of all the applications on a given suite, you can choose, you can group those applications together, and you just share the applications out to whoever you need to. Underpinning the whole lot of this is security through the Enterprise Mobility Suite. We have Azure Active Directory Premium in that. That's increasing the functionality of Azure Active Directory. That's things like password write-back. So somebody could, if you have AAD Connect in place and you've got synchronized identities, somebody can change their password in Office 365 or any other of the Microsoft Cloud applications, and that'll write back their password to your Active Directory. We also have, I mean, there's lots of other functionality involved on Azure AD Premium we're happy to talk about at the end. There's the advanced threat analytics. This is looking at how people actually use their logins. So if you have somebody who is logging into, say, logging in America and the UK, and they're using the same devices all the time, but suddenly they're logging in France for some reason, you know, on a completely different device, that might be flagged up as suspicious behaviour. And the analytics will actually learn about that and actually start flagging that to administrators to see if you've actually been breached or not. So it's incredibly advanced security there. The other side of that, another part of it is Intune. This is mobile device management and mobile application management. We'll go into a little bit more in just a second on that. And the last part, as Ben has just demonstrated, is the Azure Rights Management. That's the information protection and document security. The last part is also the Azure Infrastructure as a Service, which is the final part of the Microsoft Cloud Suite. This is effectively your tin in the cloud, as the saying goes, or just a remote data center. Here you can hire compute and you pay per hour and pay for exactly what you use, as opposed to having to buy a virtual machine and being stuck with it for however long as well. So these are also scalable services as well. Okay. So just talking a little bit more about Active Directory, this is some of the stuff we get from Azure Active Directory Premium. So some of these functionalities include, you get like lovely sign-in portal branding. So that means when people go to log into Office 365, they type in their username and they get a nice logo and background image that you choose as well. We also get the application management. Part of that is you can hook up other cloud-based applications into Azure AD, which means if somebody logs into Azure AD, they've also logged into all those cloud-based applications at the same time, otherwise known as a sign-on hub as well. This can actually go one step further and even provision accounts in those services as well. I mean, very powerful stuff in there. You can also manage groups that are created in the cloud as well through all these portals. And as you spoke about earlier, we had the self-service password reset. And you can also, people can choose which applications they want to have access to. So it could be that somebody is using Box and there is actually a valid reason for you to be using Box in your network rather than OneDrive, is that we can then incorporate that and make that an enterprise application and bring it under your control. So talking a little bit about Intune. This is good. So we have the enterprise mobility. So this is akin to programs like AirWatch or Mobile Iron and things like that as well, but it has its own set of features, and of course it integrates fully into the Office 365 stack as well and into the Azure stack. So this broken down to two parts. You've actually got the actual device management, which is, you know, making sure that people can have the various applications on their devices, that they can enforce a PIN on their device. Also gives you the ability to actually brick the device or even selectively wipe the device as well, which also leads to the mobile application management. In that, we can actually what they call wrap applications and actually control those separately. So we can have a corporate device and a personal device, but I'll have them seamlessly used together. We'll talk about that a little bit more in just a second. You've also got PC management as well, and we can do things almost akin to group policy, not quite as powerful as group policy, but it's we can manage those fully. Well, do quite a lot of management of just desktops and PCs. For those who have SCCM as well, this will actually fully integrate into SCCM. So as moving on to the mobile application management, this is some pretty powerful stuff in here. Just wait for the slide to catch up. So what we actually have is, as I was talking about, this kind of multi-identity on the one device. So we have the corporate data and personal data. The corporate data is basically controlled by the administrator, so the user can use it seamlessly. They're completely oblivious to it being corporate data. Where it comes into effect is when they actually try to merge that corporate data into personal data. So we can say, right, here we've got all our corporate applications, so common ones have been the office applications. And then they've also obviously got their personal applications, you know, such as Netflix, Fresh Paint, anything like that as well. The main advantage of this is if they brought their own device in, rather than you having to have a corporately supplied device, is they can carry using that device as per normal, and when they leave the organisation, they can still carry on using all their personal apps. They just lose the corporate apps from that. So these apps, we're now doing this logical separation, is we're going to wrap these apps with the Entune Wrapper, and we're now saying these are now corporately managed, and we will also deploy those applications via Entune as well. Okay, so so we've got an email attachment. Okay, so we can say we're in the corporate world at this point, in the corporate applications. We've got an Excel document. We can copy from that Excel document. We can but we can't copy. We can paste that into another corporate document, but we can't copy that data into a personal document. So just on the fly, we're preventing data leakage from either rogue users or even somebody else who's picking up the device and trying to send out an email without your knowledge. Okay, so again, they can't save a document into personal storage, but they would be able to save it into their personal OneDrive storage, or say in OneDrive for business storage, but not into their personal storage. Okay, so bringing all that together, let's just hand back to Dan for this one.
Thanks very much for that, Chris. Yeah, really useful. So just wanted to give a bit of an overview in terms of some of the ways in which we make it happen. I guess the services that we provide and the ways we go about doing that. So on the left there you can see the core technology sets that we work with, obviously Office 365, SharePoint, the Enterprise Mobility Suite and Azure. You can see some of the detail, some of the services we provide around those product sets in the middle. And really summarising that, there are kind of three ways in which we kick off engagements really. The first would be well, I guess the first step would be a call with your Bytes account manager and to get us on the phone just to understand a bit more about your specific requirements, what you're trying to achieve, so we can make some recommendations. We regularly start off with discovery analysis workshops. We provide those for each of those technology sets, or if you're thinking about an overall move to the cloud, we can talk about all of those in conjunction. From that initial workshop, what that will provide you with is a set of recommendations and a plan moving forwards. If it's a project that you need to get approval for, customers very regularly find that that sort of summarised documentation and recommendations and next steps are a really good place to start in order to get a project approved at a higher level. We also provide package solutions. So taking the demonstration that Ben showed you earlier around Value View, that's actually our demo site for SharePoint Intranet Faststart, as we call it, which is our package solution around SharePoint. Without going into too much detail, SharePoint historically has been a bit challenging for people. We've now got a very cost-effective, fixed-cost, fixed-outcome solution around SharePoint, which is a great way to start utilising SharePoint if you're already on 365 or if you want to do something on-premise. We obviously provide bespoke projects as well, so your traditional kind of projects that an SI would typically run. So if you have SharePoint or you're moving to Office 365, you have a specific set of requirements, then we can come in and talk to you about how we can help you individually. So there's various ways in which we can help. Hopefully that's given you a useful overview today. Just moving on briefly, I mentioned some of our package services. So we provide workshops around the four areas that I mentioned: 365, SharePoint, Azure, and EMS. If you do have a Microsoft Enterprise agreement, you may have what we call DPS days under that agreement, which are Deployment Planning Services days. If you've got training vouchers under your enterprise agreement, you can convert those to DPS, and you can call off those DPS, the value of those DPS days against the an initial engagement. So if you do have an enterprise agreement, we could start talking to you about how we could get Microsoft to actually fund that workshop for you. Our workshops are fixed price, and there are defined outcomes, as I mentioned. So, you know, a clear set of recommendations and documentation which can help with future planning. I also mentioned SharePoint Intranet Faststart. I'm just going to touch on this briefly again. Had a huge amount of interest in Faststart. The SharePoint arena, if you like, has moved very much away from T&M sort of bespoke projects whereby people would come in and build something from scratch. The reason being is actually 80% of the requirements that customers have tend to be the same. When it comes to an intranet, most people want the same things. You know, a news and events page is an example, a people finder. So what we found actually is rather than building everything from scratch every time, we could build a package solution which provides a lot more value up front, reduces your cost, reduces your risk, and gives you a defined outcome. There's several package solutions on the market. The reason we're having a lot of success with SharePoint Faststart at the moment is we don't have an annual license fee, so you're just paying for your SharePoint licenses. You're not paying to license the product as well. And regardless of how big you are, you don't pay anymore. So we basically we have a fixed cost as opposed to a per user cost. So if you'd like to know a bit more about that and how we can help, if you have an intranet you're looking to refresh, or if you're just about to look into a new intranet, or indeed if you're migrating to SharePoint Online or have an upgrade for SharePoint on-premise, Intranet Faststart works really as a phase one of a SharePoint project as well. So talk to your Bytes account manager us about that. So hopefully that's been informative. We're now on to our Q&A section of the webinar. So we've had a couple of questions come in via email. But if you do have any questions on what you've seen today, then please ask. So the first question is just around our SharePoint Faststart Intranet package and how much it is and how prescriptive it is. So Ben, do you want to pick up this one?
Okay, yeah, I'll pick up that. So, well, I'll let Dan deal with the costs in a second. But in terms of how prescriptive it is, so what you saw in the Valley View demo, the approach that we take is that although 80% of requirements are the same, we do recognise that customers do want their own identity. They don't just want an intranet that's going to look exactly the same as everyone else's. So part of our process, we call it a tailoring process, where there's certain parameters that you can tailor as part of that project. So things like the branding, you know, corporate colour schemes and logos, etc., the different types of documents you have, the various different departments. If there's external feeds that you want to incorporate, then that's the kind of thing that we'll go through, and we'll start with an initial requirements workshop to understand you know, what the tailoring options are within the framework. So in that respect, it is quite prescriptive. It's a fairly standard process, and that in itself makes it you know, reduces some of the risk. But that doesn't mean that you don't necessarily get what you want. You know, there's a lot of flexibility in the framework, and of course it is just built on core SharePoint. So if you do want to then take it on and add more functionality in, then you can. I'll just let Dan pick up on the cost.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. So we mentioned, or I mentioned in the previous slide, just around commercially that we have a one-off fixed cost. There's obviously support as well. In terms of pricing, we would always say talk to your Bytes account manager, but we can say it's very much in the sub 30k range, and as far as we're aware, that's certainly the most cost-effective fixed price SharePoint offering on the market today. So that's the commercial side of things. We do have another question, which, Chris, I think this is probably one for you. It's quite basic. How do I get started with Azure? So that's quite a broad question there, but perhaps you could offer a bit of guidance around the first steps customers should be taking when they're looking at that.
I assume you're talking about infrastructure as a service and actually getting some of your services moved away from your tin on-premise to Azure infrastructure. So as Dan pointed out, if you've got an enterprise agreement or anything like that as well, that is worth looking into, because you can actually look at cheaper services at that point as well, and in some cases even offsetting some of your licensing costs from Azure, which is included in the hourly rate into the Azure tin. After that point, you need to look. We can look at methods of either migrating the actual service, as in actually capturing a virtual machine and moving that to Azure, or you can actually look at it of recreating services in Azure as well. We talk about in workshops on how we can actually do that, and we can ascertain what your needs actually are, because there isn't just the infrastructure as a service, there's also platform as a service as well. So it could be, rather than building a very complicated, very expensive SQL setup in the cloud, it could be that Azure SQL actually covers what you need. So we can talk about that kind of stuff in the workshop and expand from there. Okay.
That's great. Thanks for that, Chris. Just had another question around do we provide a fixed cost for migrating to Exchange Online? Yes, we do. We have a packaged service around Exchange Online migrations. There's various ways in which customers can move to Exchange Online. Providing a fixed cost, fixed outcome price per mailbox is obviously very attractive to a lot of customers, and we provide that. But the first step of any migration to Office 365 is to have a discovery call with one of our specialists here, really so we can understand your requirements in a bit more detail. There are options such as a hybrid migration, for instance, and in some instances that suits customers better. I guess bottom line is there are various ways in which we can help, but we wouldn't recommend anything without first talking to you and understanding your requirements in more detail. Just the last question that I've got coming in. So if you do have any questions, then please feel free to carry on asking. Otherwise, the last question that we have was just around what kind of licenses do I need to utilize the collaborative functionality shown today? And I presume that's within SharePoint. So talking about standard or enterprise. Ben, do you want to pick that up?
Okay, I'll pick that up. So in terms of everything that we've shown in the Valley View demo, so the SharePoint sites, that is all built on SharePoint standard functionality. Now, the thing to just highlight is, so when you think about SharePoint and you align it to, say, an Office 365 enterprise license, SharePoint standard aligns with, or SharePoint Plan 1 in Office 365 and E1, and then SharePoint Enterprise aligns with SharePoint Plan 2 and E3. Now, our intranet solution is geared up for SharePoint standard, so we want to make sure that people aren't precluded from using functionality. Now, there are subtle differences in terms of what is available based on what you go for. So if you were to go for the E3 license, which would give you SharePoint Enterprise anyway, that will also include copies of the Word client and Skype for Business, etc. So that aspect of it in terms of the collaboration using the clients will be covered in E3. However, if you didn't want to go down that path and you just wanted to use E1, or SharePoint Plan 1, certainly E1, then you get Word Online and you can still edit documents and share that way. The final thing is around the rights management protection. So again, that does come with, you would need E3 as a minimum to be able to do all the rights management stuff. That isn't available in the lower packages. And then the final piece of this is around, well, where does E5 come in? So I mean, probably the most obvious part of that is where you take Skype for Business and turn it into integration with PBX, etc., and telephony. That's the real differentiator there. Okay.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Ben. So I think that takes us to the end of the webinar today. If you do have any further questions, then please email tellmemore@bytes.co.uk, where one of the account managers will be happy to help you out. If you are looking to embark on a cloud journey, then we'd love to talk to you. So that concludes today's webinar. Thank you very much. I hope you found that informative, and we hope to hear from you shortly. Thank you.